Ready?
Don't look like we got a long night.
Okay.
That's the way I like it.
Okay, we're gonna go for it. The meeting will come to order. For public information, a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of this meeting room on the east wall. We'll have roll call.
Harris,
Here.
Knapper.
Here.
Meyer,
Yes.
Reisig,
Here.
Blue.
Here.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I always like to announce again, I want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded to be broadcast at a later date. Remember, whoever wants to speak once you're recognized, be sure to come forward here to the microphone, speak into the microphone, so we can hear your voice on the recording. Remember that there's no swearing or other inappropriate language. We all need to check our cell phones, be sure they're shut off or on silent. Want to remind commissioners as well to speak well into your microphone so that you can be heard on the recording. We expect this meeting to be fairly quick tonight. I hope so because of the weather, and that you can all get home sooner rather than later. I'm gonna hope that we don't need to take a recess tonight. So I think that covers those announcements. The next item we have on the agenda is approval of the approval of the agenda itself, and consider any modifications. Do we have any modifications,
Yeah.
Kelly?
Under the general agenda items, I would like to remove the presentation from Region 1.
So that's that first item
First
under
item
general?
under general agenda.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that needs to be modified on the agenda?
I have one item.
Okay.
I need to, well, not the agenda, I guess.
no.
It's not the agenda, it's
Right,
on
it'll be the
consent
consent
agenda.
calendar
Next part,
later,
yeah.
okay.
All right.
All right, so do we have a motion to accept the agenda with the one change from Kelly?
I moved it, we accept the agenda with the one change, which is removing the Region 1 presentation.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
There we go.
You have 5 yeses.
All right, motion's carried. Remember, this evening, the board reserves the right to enter into a closed session. We don't have any closed session expected tonight, but if anything comes up, we always reserve the right to do that. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items on this consent agenda are expected for approval with one motion for all of these items unless one of the members would want to have one item separated.
I need to abstain from claim number 025-02314.
So just remove that from the claims portion,
Just from the claim.
okay?
So you're just going to abstain, we can still move on.
I'm still gonna vote on the rest of the items, only that one item.
So we're
So-
pulling that separate to, I
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
it a
So I
separate
think-
action item.
Right, I think what Kelly would like for us to do from her standpoint is, we'll pull that item out, then we'll vote on everything else, on the consent agenda, then we'll vote on that item, that one item separately,
With, we'll vote on
And
his
he'll,
abstention
and
first.
he,
Right.
Yeah, gotcha.
okay? And, when we say that,
And then, since he's abstaining and I have to have him in the vote, he can push the yellow button
for abstaining,
to,
right,
to not cast a vote on that.
all right.
When we get to that one, right now, you are voting on the, or considering the consent agenda with that claim removed,
Okay,
and then we'll do the other one as a separate action item.
All right.
gotcha.
So do you have a motion to that effect at this point? Is that what,
I think
did you get a
you,
motion
you
to
could
that?
approve
didn't make a
the
motion.
consent agenda with that claim removed.
Okay, right, but,
You made the motion?
I did not do it that way.
okay. Why don't you do it that way?
I make the motion that we approve all items on the consent agenda excluding,
The claim number 02502314.
okay,
And I'm all caught up to all of that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's my motion.
Okay, so that's the motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
So, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda except for that one claim item. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's, go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses?
Motion's carried. So then we'll go back to that one claim item. Russ, you need to abstain from that because that's a check written to you or
our
your
company-
firm.
Our company, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I would move that we approve the abstention from
I
Commissioner
didn't,
Reisig.
I didn't do that.
okay.
Okay, we can voice vote on it. I think.
Yeah, so the question is, do we need to vote to allow him to abstain
Right, and then we vote on it.
and then vote on the item?
I'm not set up that way. I assumed, which there's the danger, that they removed that claim and that he could, I didn't realize they needed to make a motion to allow him to abstain.
If you feel more comfortable making a motion in that circumstance, I think you could just do it by a voice. But I don't know that it would necessarily be required the way that we've done it.
We
Okay.
could have just abstained from that one. I could have just abstained from one item.
Right.
That's the way I've used
So,
to do it.
we don't have to vote on his abstention? Is that what you're saying, Jason?
I don't think in these circumstances it would require a vote
Okay,
They removed it from the first.
from the consent.
I know
Yeah.
that's been some discussion as to how that should work appropriately, and so maybe for the future, if you could check that out as far as whether or not we need to vote to, allow,
You know, and
someone
if
to
there's a
abstain.
comfort level, I don't see any harm in there being a voice vote on it to, but
Yeah, I think we can do the voice vote, but my only concern is voting on his abstention. Because sometimes somebody say, well, I wanna abstain. Well, what's your reason? Well, that's not a reason to abstain.
Well, I sold
And,
them.
and the board would make the decision whether or not he can abstain or whether he has to vote yes or no on the item.
right,
I think, in fact, I think that's Robert's rules, but I don't wanna say that for sure, so might be something to check on.
it seems like we have not done that for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I had back when I was on city council, that's the way we always did it, was the other 4 decided whether or not he would explain his situation. The other 4 decided
If it was a
whether or
conflict-
not
if it was a
it was a
conflict,
conflict or
yeah.
not for him.
Right.
And, that way, sometimes it's a gray area for him and, the other people get to declare. But for today, I guess I'm trying to figure out what we wanna do right now.
Okay, you know what? The motion was to approve him abstaining by Meyer, correct?
Right.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I seconded it.
You will
Okay.
second it?
Yeah.
I have it ready.
Okay,
Any-
so any discussion? Hearing none, we can, go ahead and vote.
Is it gonna be a voice vote?
No, I
She-
got you.
she
talked-
got it ready.
You talked
got it
enough, I got
She
it
got
done.
it ready, yeah. Okay.
I have
Um,
4 yeses and Reisig abstains from the vote.
Okay. And so now we need a motion to approve the claim. And,
I would move to approve the claim that was pulled from the consent agenda. I don't know what it was.
I sold, Road and Bridge a box. They had, their one pickup was in a wreck, and they wrecked the toolbox, or the utility bed and the pickups. They needed it. And I had a brand new utility bed that fit right on their pickups.
Okay. Oh, that's, I'm fine with you.
Oh, yeah,
abstaining
just so
with
you
it.
know what it is,
Yeah.
that's what
Right,
it is.
no, it's good to know, yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Alright, so we have a motion and a second to approve that claim. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote.
You have 4 yeses and Reisig abstains from the vote.
Alright, motion's carried. Okay, we'll go on to the next, area of the agenda, which is Board of Equalization. We'll need a motion to go into Board of Equalization.
I move that we go into the Board of Equalization.
Second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses?
Okay, motion's carried. First item is discuss and consider approval of 6 motor vehicle exemptions for Regional West, Scotts Bluff. Heather?
So this is Regional West's yearly request for motor vehicle exemptions. This year they only have 6 vehicles that qualify for motor vehicle exemptions. They say all motor vehicles are used for the daily operations of a nonprofit hospital, Regional West Medical Center. Vehicles are used for the purpose of transporting patients, lab testing products, supplies, employees, and more between facilities and other locations within the regional operating area. The total tax loss would be $1,410. And these vehicles have all been previously exempt.
Okay, any questions or concerns?
Move approval.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the 6 motor vehicle exemptions for Regional West. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
Motion carried. Next item is discuss and consider approval for 4 motor vehicle exemptions for Cirrus House, Scotts Bluff. Heather?
So these again are their yearly vehicle requests for exemption. There are 4 vehicles this year. Total tax loss is $493.80. The Cirrus House is an educational rehabilitation program for adults with mental illnesses, with youth services, rehab, including mentoring, advocacy, social services, job placement, recreational, and case management. These vehicles are kept on site at one of their 2 locations, either 1802 17th Avenue in Scotts Bluff or 1509 First Avenue in Scotts Bluff.
Any questions or concerns? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the 4 vehicle tax exemptions for Service House.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
Motion's carried. All right, we'll go to the next item, receive assessor recommendations for 17 permissive exemptions. Robert?
Good afternoon again. So all of you should have had a printed out spreadsheet in your packets. So we're talking about 17 permissive exemptions. Just to back up one moment as far as the process. Every 4 years, entities that are requesting a permissive exemption are required to fill out what we call a long form application, and those are years that are divisible by 4. So last year would have been the year for the long form. This year is the A form that would be basically a reaffirmation. So in the reaffirmation years, the board does not have to approve those permissives. That's done by the assessor's office. in those off years. With the exception of a couple of things. If there's a new permissive exemption request that's not been heard on the year divisible by 4 prior to that year, the board has to approve that. Or if the assessor recommends denying a permissive exemption that was approved previously. And we have a combination of those tonight. So on the spreadsheet, you'll see that we actually have a new application for Scotts Bluff investors. And this is a facility for nursing, not nursing facility, but assisted living facility. They have filed, and the state of Nebraska, starting this year, has a new form called a 451 NF. And that is for these nursing facilities. Okay, so it could be a nursing, it can actually be a nursing facility or assisted living. And the way that the permissive exemption is granted is through their percentage use of Medicaid beds. So it's on a 3-year basis. Look at their total beds available for each year for 2022, 2023, 2024, and then look at the numbers of beds occupied by Medicaid patients for the same period of time, come up with a percentage use for Medicaid. I've got the appropriate documentation from the facility. They would be eligible for a partial exemption of 46.2% for this year. And each year they would have to go through this calculation provided by the state on the 451 NF form. So that's a new form for us, but this is also a new facility. So the current value on that property is a little over 2.2 million. What would be exempted to be slightly over $1 million for that facility. My recommendation is for the board to approve that.
Which facility is that?
I can't think of the name of it. It's over on, I think it's 617 West 33rd Street.
Wildlife maybe, or is it the
No, over by the hospital.
Over by the hospital.
33rd?
It's
had a
33rd Street.
couple of names very recently.
Yeah, it's
They're both
changed hands.
escaping me right now.
Yeah,
No,
well,
over by the hospital.
Used to be Golden Living.
Yes,
That's the one.
Monument, rehab.
rehab.
yes.
Yeah,
Now, what was the address?
it is. Let me go right to it. I was looking for it real
That'd be
quick.
all right, that building would be about 2 million.
It is 617 West 33rd Street.
Good job. You had the right street. I don't remember the number.
It's on the corner,
Six,
so it's.
17,
West
west.
33rd. It's a legit facility.
You're going
I've took a
I
look
don't
at it.
think it's
On
that
Avenue
facility.
B,
That doesn't sound
and
right.
it's over here.
It's
It's the old Golden Living, is that
well,
what
now
we're
it's the
talking
old Graymore, if you remember Graymore.
about? Yeah, old Graymore Manor,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what.
But I don't,
Then it was Scotts Bluff Nursing Center, and
That'd be worth, that's about where 2 million.
33rd is,
Was it also
that
Beverly?
is not 33rd.
No.
That's 35th or 36th up there,
Right.
Walmart across.
Oh,
right?
Then that's
I think
gotta-
it's either
that's gotta
Welllife
be-
or Inwood
That's gotta be
Court.
Welllife then.
I don't know what the old name was, John.
can we pull it up?
Sure.
we have 33rd off of Avenue B just goes west.
33rd is
West.
right there by,
John Dillman lived up in that
I'm
area.
turning
Right.
around, I think.
right,
the
Robert.
cause that was 32nd.
You have
was
it
the
right
old-
It's Welllife.
I bet it is Welllife.
Cause I,
That is
Emerald Court,
Welllife.
and all those are in.
So Kelly's gonna
agree.
pull it up
I
for us. While
agree.
we're doing that,
I'm
Why
guessing
did it
it's,
go
just
to-
so, I didn't state it up front, but
I'm
this
guessing
is
it's
my
Welllife.
recommendations for tonight. I'm required by statute to make my recommendations to the board by March 1st on permissive exemptions. And the board can take those recommendations, and as long as the board meets and approves or denies those by June 1st. So at a later date, Kelly
be
will set
bringing
a date for your
that's
approval.
Welllife,
This is Welllife?
yeah.
Yes.
I know 33rd, I know that other one is like on 35th or 36th or something like that. 37, yeah.
So if
Okay.
anybody, wants to review these forms, I know this is just a recommendation night, but if you wanna see the actual forms and the calculation, these are in my office.
So, but this is this is a new exemption that they didn't have before.
That's right, it's for for-profit nursing facilities, skilled nursing facility, or assisted living facilities that provide Medicaid beds.
Right. And
Did
it's a
Wellpipe
pers-
have an exemption prior?
That facility did not have one prior to this,
Interesting.
but this is a new thing for this year too.
okay,
I don't-
They can even apply?
Yeah, I think so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
okay.
The state reimburses on any of that?
That I don't know.
I don't
I
think so.
don't know why they wouldn't, they took it away, they should put it back. Generally what- Well, that's what they do in homestead exemption, they take it, they give it back to us.
That's homestead, that's,
I realize,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
this
that's
is kind of
different.
a homestead deal too.
Yeah.
so,
So what you're saying is you need any action from us tonight?
no action tonight,
You're gonna bring it back to us?
we'll bring it
I-
back to you for decision.
I want you to take action on receiving it since he's required to give it to you guys, but
Do you wanna,
just to
on the whole
receive it,
thing when he's done?
that you received it. I have it set up for receive assessor
Right.
recommendation.
But we don't need to do it one for this item and one for all the rest of the items, do we?
Scotts Bluff Investors does not need separated from the other. You're
Okay.
receiving his entire list.
Okay,
That's how
and
it
he
is.
hadn't told us about that list yet.
Okay, let me go ahead and
Hey, we're good,
Yeah,
Robert.
so tell us on the rest of them.
Okay, so the other 16 parcels, again, because it's an off year, it's just an affirmation year, not an application year. Since I believe we should deny this request, it requires the board approval. So this is for C.W. Yount Foundation, and the parcels are listed with the legal descriptions, the 2025 values that would be going back onto the tax rolls for this year is a little over $2.5 million. And the reason that I am requesting we deny this permissive exemption is due to the fact that the state had taken this board to Turk, and the board, or the state won, and for the year of 2020, and basically there was a 12 or 13-page decision issued by Turk. I believe I shared this with the board before. To sum it up, the main reason that it was determined that it wasn't eligible because the primary use of these properties was for leasing these properties for farming and for pasture. So that was the primary use. Now granted, they take that money and do very good work with it through charitable organizations, but that wasn't the primary use of this land. So based on their decision, talking with the state, of course, they're not gonna tell us what to do, but I did get the recommendation that it might be a good idea to look at this really hard and deny it from my perspective. So,
I have a
since
question.
the Turk has ruled, I think and nothing has changed in their business model, I think that the board should deny their request.
This is your year to accept the long forms?
Short forms.
So do you send them an intent to tax notice, or if they're not,
They've already been noticed.
okay,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
okay.
I
So
I had to do that when I got my Turk notice. I had to do that with the whole class.
Okay.
Right.
I was like, if it's a short year, how do they know they're getting denied?
Yeah.
So I remember that you brought, or somebody brought to us the fact that this went to Turk and, Turk won, they lost, and that they were gonna be assessed taxes.
That's correct.
And based on that, you're denying this.
That's correct. Correct. But I require the board's approval to do that. Don't need it tonight, just
Right.
submitting it as required.
So what you're asking for, Kelly, is a motion to just receive the assessor
So we have on
recommenda-
record that Robert presented you like he's supposed to in
Okay.
February.
Do they have
Do you
the
want the
option to
statute?
appeal this?
Excuse me?
Do they have the option to appeal this to us?
They appealed it.
They can, the Turk decision cannot be appealed, that it was found to be taxable for the year 2020,
for 2020,
for 2020.
right? But they
Keep in
can
mind-
still appeal this for 24 or whatever.
That's right.
Right. They can still appeal, yeah, whenever, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So. Right,
Yeah, they could definitely appeal this.
but, yeah, based on Turk's,
The parameters that they laid out,
Right.
they
And
determined
their
that
ruling.
they are taxable entity,
right,
and and that's why nothing in their business model had changed.
I would move that we receive the
What year did you say
assessor
this was for,
recommendations.
Robert?
The court case was for, or the court case, the Turk case was for 2020.
Okay.
Okay, so we put that back on the tax rolls for 2020, did a tax list correction, and the entity received notification that that was happening. They were very aware of that. This is for their 2025 exemption.
Okay.
Keep in mind, in the interim years, 21, 22, 23, 24, the board approved, the permissive. We hadn't gotten the ruling until late in 2024 for 2020. I mean, unfortunately, it takes 3 to 4
That long,
years to get
yeah.
Turk decisions sometimes. So that's how.
So we
there
never
was.
got to collect any taxes through that time?
What's that?
We
We
never
did
collect-
not collect taxes in 2021, 22, 20, yeah, 23, 24. So for this year, for 2025, it will go back on the tax rolls.
So with the 2020 ruling, where does that money go then? Does that go back to 2020?
So,
Go
yeah,
back-
so that would, I don't wanna speak for Heather, but the treasurer would, send out a bill to the
It's just a tax statement for the.
tax statement,
It's
yeah.
a tax statement for the 2020 tax year.
And
But
then-
then the money would get divided over, like the schools would get a check and everyone would get a check out of that thing.
Yeah, when they pay, it goes back to you and it's distributed amongst that tax year's levy.
But that's not right. That money's already been re-taxed for. Anyway, we'll talk about that another day.
Well, but it's added to that tax roll, so.
Is that, well, whatever, that's
Yeah.
not right. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a motion to receive this information from Robert.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
You have 5 yeses.
Okay, motion's carried.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
I move we come out of Board of Equalization.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to come out of Board of Equalization. Let's go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses?
Motion's carried. We'll go on to general agenda items. The first one is receive the extension annual report.
So we tried to send it to you in your packet. It might have been too big. I have a physical copy if anybody's interested. It just, they provide this to you every year and it lists their programs and information about them.
The,
It was in your packet. Did you did the press get it or not? Did it go through? Anyway.
not a hard copy.
We had a lot of stuff bounce back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's on the extension,
Correct.
okay? Is there any questions about that from anyone? Entertain a motion to receive the report.
I move that we receive the extension's annual report.
I'll second.
And there's no one here from extensions, so.
Correct, they weren't coming.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll
Wait 1
vote.
second. You have 5 yeses?
Motion's carried. Go to the next item, discuss and consider ratifying the correction of minutes from January 21st, 2025. Ms.
Okay.
Kelly?
So, page 2 of January 21st, 2025, I missed an action item, and what I did, we put an asterisk where the action item was. And the motion was made by Knapper, seconded by Blue, to approve the resolution to allow the treasurer to invest excess funds as recommended by Heather Hoschild, treasurer, and I had 5 yeas. I just put it after your signatures. I just completely missed it when I got your minutes.
So, we would need a motion to ratify the correction of the minutes from the January 21st.
Please let me fix the minutes. That's all I wanted to do. But then I just did it.
Okay,
But we need
do
to
we need to
ratify.
ratify, you still need a motion, don't you?
I'll move to ratify the correction of minutes from January 2020.
Second.
Uh-oh. I have to do a voice. I'm not ready for my own action.
Okay,
We got time. Type
so,
away.
did
You want me
did
to type
we,
it?
Type away.
did you second that?
I did.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And you're gonna do a roll call vote?
No?
Oh,
She's typing.
you're gonna type it in right quick,
She's got it right there.
okay? We'll let her do it.
I just said ratify correction, so I know what I'm doing, but go ahead.
Okay, you ready to vote? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses. Thank you very much.
Okay, motion's carried. Okay, that completes the general agenda items, going to old business, time clock plus and payroll processes. Anything new?
I have been contacted that they want me to test again. I need to set up a time to do that, so they have done their next step in the
Tests
process.
hadn't been working right, so
They haven't, and then they go back and fix it, and then they say,
try it again.
try it again,
Oh, boy.
so
Okay,
that's where we are.
so that's where you're at now. Okay? The next item is public comments. Board of Commissioners will receive public comments on items discussed at this meeting or suggestions for items of discussion at a future board meeting. Board will not take action on comments presented at this date. Is there anyone here, from the public that wants to give any input? Let the record show there were none. The next item is board and staff reports. With discussion, Ms. Lisa, I think we'll start on your side.
Okay, just wanted to run by that I provided insurance lists of our property that is insurable. It's our annual renewal time, and wondered if you had questions on that as far as, and values of our property, cause that had been brought up as a question to me from the airport. We should be having an appraisal done by our insurance company this year, maybe next year, maybe next year. They said, they're gonna do all 80-some counties over 5 years, and they're on year 2. So, they'll be reappraising very soon as well.
So that concern was the airport authorities or insurance company?
Airport
Is
authorities,
airport authorities, okay.
of whether our values were adequate, so I guess I just wanted you all to see what we have listed. And
Just
we
wonder what they based
investigate any further, what?
I just wonder what they based it on.
What North Platte is doing right now, they have a bond for a new airport, and they said it's, $25 to $30 million, and we have for the terminal. And we are insuring our terminal at like $15 million. And the caveat of this is we had this long discussion last year trying to, so they are taking their portion and paying insurance on the rentable spaces, of which their concerns are the ones that are not their rentable spaces, so are public and still on us.
So if their value increases, that means their portion goes down.
No, it wasn't go down, it would just make more that we have to cover. You know, it would make our values go up,
Make our premiums go up.
most likely, you know.
If that's how it comes out.
I've never heard of them going down yet.
No, I imagine it's only gonna it's gonna be probably a tough year. So, I had that put in front of you, and just, I've given you the minutes from our building utilization committee. We pulled together to discuss Robert's office changes. He's doing some pretty nice remodel. That carpet looks nice downstairs. And,
New paint, looks good.
new paint, new flooring.
If I could add to that.
Oh, sure.
I volunteered to paint the office. This was on a Tuesday. and
Tuesday or
couple-
Wednesday, yeah.
Tuesday or Wednesday. A couple of ladies in the office wanted to do the painting, so they completely painted that room. I didn't even have to paint. They did a great job. They laid the carpet yesterday. The electrician was in today. I think hopefully we'll have early here they finished. All we had left was Cat 5 cable, moving the office downstairs.
Okay,
I wasn't aware there was electrical work that had to be done, but maybe that was something that came up in.
They added some plugs and a light switch.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Alright, that, and we went out to the roads department as well and discussed Kurt was needing some space for one more administrative, one or two of his people and trying to park some of his buses in a place because he's about ready to get 4 new ones. And he wants to keep a couple of the ones that are currently being used because sometimes he has to take one out of service, get it repaired, and while it's out of service, it's good to have a backup to put back in service of a operational bus. Anyway,
Okay. And Kurt, if you wanna talk about that when it's your turn, we'll let you talk about it.
At the mic, please.
Yeah, I'm getting in trouble cause I'm not having you come up to the mic. Be sure you do that, okay?
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay. Jason, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sheriff,
Only thing I'll bring to your attention.
come on up. I know you have a gun, but we still need you up here.
Thank you, Sheriff.
No, the only thing I want to bring to your attention is that a Nebraska State Patrol trooper was killed in line of duty yesterday. While he was investigating a traffic incident on I-80 and so that just affects all of us. And you may remember that in 2020 there was another trooper killed on this end of the state near Bridgeport, and we were called to help investigate that, so we did the post-crash investigation. And that trooper was Jerry Smith, and the trooper that was killed yesterday was Jerry Smith. He was the youngest trooper in his class. The guy killed yesterday was 21, and Jerry Smith was the oldest trooper that ever went through their class, and those guys were roommates when they went to camp. So I just bringing that to your attention, and if you see any of us at the detention center and the sheriff's department, we have shrouds on our badges today, and that's why. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, Kurt?
Just a quick update on the weather today. We did suspend services about 11:30. We had a couple stragglers out. We kept a couple of our curb-to-curb buses out to get them home. Main arterials weren't bad, but with that light fluffy snow on the side streets and a little bit of wind, it started drifting pretty bad, and we were having some real big concerns with buses getting stuck, and the wind chills were just unbearable. So we did suspend service today. Hopefully they'll get some clearing done tonight. Still kind of working with the city of Gearing on some secondary snow routes, but they've kind of been slow to get that up and running, but basically make our side streets a secondary snow route where there'll only be parking allowed on one side, and they could clear those as once the main snow routes are cleared. Other than that, do have a vehicle en route to Lincoln to pick up, we'll have Ford Transit van, and then the 4 buses. I don't have, we had a quarterly meeting today with NDOT, all the managers, and they're starting to see the builds come in faster, so we're hoping to have those within, we're probably still looking at a couple months. They have to go to Kansas City first, then they go to Lincoln, NDOT has to inspect them, then because they come from out of state, Nebraska State Patrol has to inspect them before we can go get them. But that is part of the issue for the Space Utilization Committee is with those backup buses, with the lead times of these things of being upwards of 2 years, we're keeping additional buses for backups for when we have maintenance outages to take them out of service for, oil changes, if we have any transmission issues, brake jobs are a couple of days usually to be able to make sure we have enough backups. And I'd rather not park those out in the hailstorms in the summer, so.
Good thinking. I like that you made sure you got everybody back home if you could.
That was nice of us, wasn't it?
When I seen that, as you know, I'm normally, wanting us to try and stay open if we can and serve people, but when I thought about yours, I thought, we're kinda responsible for those people. And if we get them to a doctor's appointment, we're gonna be responsible to get them home, and with weather changing and.
We actually made a bit of an exception today. We have a gal that lives out by Lake Minnetonka, and she's not ambulatory. She was not able to get into town so we actually took the pickup out. My drivers took the pickup out stopped at Walmart and got her insulin, got it to her because she was out of insulin, so.
Appreciate that,
People don't know that.
yeah.
So,
You know,
Well, they do
all-
now.
that was,
all they
other
ever
than
talk-
that, we were
Yeah.
running as normal as best we could, but it just wasn't safe for anybody out there with the wind.
All they ever talk about is empty buses.
So, okay. Anything else
But
for me?
You do a good job, guys.
How's the fueling station working?
Seems to be going well. I think we've got that meter pretty well dialed in as far as, what it says
You mean
there's,
your refill, your
when
main
there's
refill?
when there's 1,500 gallons in there, it's really close. So, we're going about once a month to get to get it refilled, so.
Filling once a month.
Once between 4 and 6 weeks, I think, probably on average.
Okay.
So, but seems to be working well.
Good.
And while Kurt's standing there, I'd like to thank Kurt for his cooperation. We had a situation, working with a aid agency here in town. And, it was a very cold morning. My partner and I are out tracking for an hour or so, and, he was called to see if he could open up the facility, his bus barn, so we'd have a warm place to operate out of. And he come down and opened it up, and things ended well shortly thereafter, but it was really nice to know that Kurt was so responsive to a need. And he also makes a great pot of coffee. So thank you, Kurt.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to do it.
Thanks. Yeah. Heather? Darla, you can be next if you want to be, but we're going through that direction. Okay.
I just wanted to let you guys know that the delinquent tax list was published, last Saturday and will be published the next 2 Thursdays. We had a little bit of a delay because the, legal part of the Star Herald that puts that together was hacked, and so it took us a while to get it into the paper, but it is out there. It does have names on it, so if you have anybody calling because they're upset because we advertised their names, that was something we had to do last year. And then our public tax sale will be on March 3rd, so.
But, your public tax sale, and that's up here?
That's here, yeah. The actual sale will be up here, but, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Ms. Darlett, do you have anything? Come on up.
I just have some on legislation. So LB 216, as y'all know, for the state to take district court clerks, we had a judiciary hearing last Thursday. It is not yet out of committee, although we expect something, if not this year, in the next year or two. We've had a district court clerk on the east side of the state make it difficult for the rest of us and kind of pushed us to the front of the line on this bill. So I do expect that we'll get some more leverage, not me. The bill will get more leverage as it progresses. They've decreased the fiscal note on it. It was estimated to be about $30 million. It's now down around 12 to 15, and that's first year only. I sent you guys information. The only person I heard from was Mr. Blue, and we had a discussion over it. I didn't know where you stood. We can have further discussions as this bill progresses. I will tell you the judges are for it. The bar, I've heard, is for it. The Douglas County Judicial Bench is pushing hard for it. NACO is against it, but if some amendments are made, they would be more inclined for it, and we as well.
So can I clarify then that simply would make you and or your staff part of the state judicial branch, and then the payment or your salary and whatever would come from them, and you would be employed by them?
By the state, that's correct.
Right, and
That's correct.
so do you and your constituents have a position?
We are opposed.
Opposed. You'd rather be
officially
county, yeah.
opposed. And the reason is because we're the last link for, in the judiciary to, our public out of, that building. Cause everybody else in that building, well, the judges in county court are all state. My honest opinion is I don't care who signs my check, my job doesn't change, to be honest. There's been a push among those of us who have come in the last 10 years to get some qualifications to run for the position of clerk of the district court. So you would have to have a bachelor degree or experience in the courts or law experience, because it should not be a popularity contest. You have to come into this position knowing some stuff. And I am one of 5 that have, across the state, that have a college degree. So, some of that stuff is, unpopular amongst many, although those of us who fill this position feel the need that there needs to be, some growth. So, it only affects, my office would then, be on the county budget, same as county court, if this passes. So you would not have the personnel piece of it, you would just have the supplies and the building and the, equipment and things like that. Same thing as county court. So,
All right,
if you have any questions, I'll forward you stuff as it gets, if it gets any grounds, if it comes out of committee, I'll keep you updated, so.
You made a comment that if there were some concessions made, that the clerks of the district courts would be supportive of it? Or did I mishear that?
No, you heard that correctly. The big concern is that if the state takes us over, there is no consistency amongst, our pay scales across the state. So you go from the smallest, like Dual County, who's an ex officio, right? So I'll just pick, they get $30,000 a year, up to Lancaster and Douglas County, and they get $150 to $175 a year. So that's the biggest, concern. We don't want the state to take us over and lay us off, or have a reduction in force with our staff. So we met with Corey Steele. There was 5 of us out of a committee of 15 from our association. We went to Lincoln, met with Corey Steele, who is over the AOCP, and Amy Prenda, and we talked through, the what ifs. We had a bunch of questions, and Corey is quite, he can probably sell a snowball to Eskimos if in the right conditions. But we had him respond to us in writing with a lot of his responses. We know it's coming. It's been pushed literally for about 40 years. So the bill as it's written this year is pretty strong. It's stronger than it has ever been. And so if we can go in, our position basically is, if we can go in it with them understanding that we want this list of items to be included, 1 through 10, and they can provide those, we would feel much better about protecting our staff and our duties as they are now, if that helps.
Question?
Yeah.
Does this include the bailiff?
No, it does not.
So the bailiff would still be
The
separate?
bailiff, and other court, officials would come next year or the year after. There is a remedy, not all courts have bailiffs. Actually, there's probably less than 15 jurisdictions that have a bailiff, used in the capacity that we do. So I can take the bailiff under my payroll and get her moved over, if that's what we want to do, as a whole, as a group, because that would leave 1 employee out of both courts.
Yeah, 'cause
That would be county.
Okay, 'cause Cause that's what you mentioned, we would operate like county court where we just have our expenses, but then we also have this district judge budget too.
Right, so those judge budgets stay the same.
But we don't have a county judge budget separate, so that's why.
This bill doesn't have
doesn't cover
anything
that.
to do with the judges. It's only my office.
Yeah, okay.
So all of my expenses, all of that, it's kind of funny because there's a bill that was introduced right before us, that the county or the state, they're requesting the state to pay half of the expenses for the county courts. Yes. So at some point, I think it's, something's been started, you know, the state says they have a budget for us. I don't know.
Is there any reason you wouldn't take the bailiff with you, or would you be?
If the legislation won't allow it, then I would have to leave her.
So,
Yes.
Mr. Arda, so simply from a financial standpoint, the county, would not have those expenses any longer.
You would not have our salary, the top
Salary,
part of our
right.
budget
We would
anymore.
lose, in my opinion, some local control, so to speak. So there's some other issues, but from a pure financial standpoint, we wouldn't have the personnel expense.
That's right,
Okay.
that's right.
And I'm assuming the requirement is the same as the probation office, that it'd be up to county to furnish a facility for you to
Yes.
work out of.
Yes, yeah. So those statutes, really remain the same and unchanged. It's basically taking the elected official out, making me appointed through the state.
No more elected.
No more elected. That's the big piece. So, and
Okay.
if this passes, they have to do it in a manner which, provides that I do not have to file next year. Because if they don't push it with that specific language and we don't file for reelection, and something happens, you know, then we're out. We're gonna have some issues there. So, they're trying to push it, and we don't know. We don't know where it's at right now,
Okay,
so.
appreciate you
Yep.
keeping us up to date.
Okay.
Thanks. Steve?
Couple things, first off, the roads, I guess, with the storm, everything's open. They're 2 to 4 inches, looks more like 6, probably 8 to me, but, you know, the north-south roads, everything's snow-packed, north-south roads have the drifting, finger drifting coming from the east with the winds. So right now, they're all open, and we're able to keep those open. We were out yesterday till 2 or 3, made a trip out on the gravel, everybody made one pass on the gravel to keep those open, and then today we were out. Hopefully, tomorrow's temperatures will help increase. Our biggest fight now is probably just the cold. When you go and plow this snow, it's so powdery, blows up under your chassis and freezes your air lines and fuel and everything else. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is trying to keep things thawed out while we do that. So we do have a little spot out in the hills. Maybe Thursday, if it warms up a little bit, we might take one of those big machines out and give it a test run, see what happens. So be a training thing here
So you
for us.
haven't used it yet, have you?
No, they're working great, aren't they? They were till today.
Yeah, they've
I
kept
guess. They've been working good for a few years. So,
Doing a great job.
so that's where the roads are at, so. And, the other thing I had, I know a couple weeks ago, you guys got a letter from NACO about my hours for the weeds. I didn't know if there's any questions about that, to explain any of that, or what that was. I was actually in Kearney at that meeting for a weed conference, so.
That was some continuing education for the weed side of things.
Yes,
And
yeah.
you got that done.
Not for last year, for this year I've started on it. So I didn't start till June, so there was already 2 of their conferences over with. So I went to the fall one, got them there, and at NACO, I did the road one instead of the weed one. So I guess I wasn't surprised I didn't get them. They require 20 hours a year, and, at each one you can get 10. So I missed their conference one, which is into February, then they have a spring one here at the end of March I'll get. And so you get 4 chances to do it, but where I wasn't hired till June, I missed 2 of them, and then at NACO, I decided to go to the road one instead of weed. so.
You have the option to do it online, Steve.
No, you have to go and be in attendance, and you have to pass tests to get your points and everything else at this, so it's a little more detailed than what you would think roads is, cause road is 20 hours every 3 years. So, yeah, it's a little different, so. All right, I just didn't know if there's any questions on that, so.
Thanks,
Thanks, Steve. Tell your guys thanks too.
yeah. Long hours right now. Robert, anything else?
No, we spent 2 hours
Yeah.
together earlier,
Okay.
so I have nothing else to say.
All right. Ms. Kelly?
So, we've got ballots ready for the special Gearing School Bond election. They'll be going out this week. We all have carpal tunnel. We did it on our own. So those will be going out.
And so,
Are they mail-in?
It's a mail-in election.
and they have to be in by what date?
They are due to my office. You can, a postmark does not count. I learned that the hard way when I ran for election in 2018. And I thought that there were more ballots to count and I had a chance when I lost by 1. But postmark doesn't count. To my office by 5 p.m. on March 11th. You can put it in the drop box. I'll be just like election night for any other election. I'll be standing at the ballot drop box so I can lock that. It's open and ready to receive ballots once everybody gets them and makes their decision. So
Okay.
that's what we've been doing last week.
Good. Okay, Charlie?
I don't have a whole lot. I did go to regional governance last week and listen to the presentation from Gearing Public Schools on the middle school bond issue, and voiced my frustrations, but also voiced my support for the project. Some of the concerns that I had was, when I talk to voters, they tell me that, the Gearing School Board, they knew that this middle school bond issue was coming when they pushed the high school bond issue, and they didn't tell us about it. Well, there was a need to create space to hold students, and so this was definitely a process that had been well thought out to finish the Gearing Lincoln School, and then finish the high school, and then move to the middle school. So that explanation made a lot of sense to me. So that concern is no longer there for me. As a Gearing resident, that's I've got to vote on the issue, and so I was pleased with their presentation, explanation on things. So legislation, a lot of stuff is still in committee, so we'll see kind of how that goes. Not a whole lot of movement yet on the NACO bills and the bills affecting county government, so we'll just keep an eye on those things. We have tourism tomorrow. We are going to do a joint tourism board meeting with the county board on the 24th. So that would be fruitful, I believe.
I need stuff for the agenda, please.
Okay. And TCD was canceled last meeting was canceled. So I think that's about it.
Ken?
My 10-year-old fourth grader said that if that school bond passes, his parents' taxes are gonna go right through the ceiling. I don't know where he got that from. I'm guessing from his parents, but I don't know that for sure. I tried to get him calmed down.
Okay.
Let us know that everything was all right. I ended up with the flu all last week, so I didn't get to all my meetings. So I don't have really anything to report.
Okay.
And talking to some of the members that did go, there wasn't anything big that happened, so
Okay.
I spent the week in bed, most of it.
The primary thing I wanted to bring up this evening, that, came up a little bit, as of this morning, and that's our process about, when we close here because of weather, and how that decision's made. And Miss Lisa, did you make copies of that?
I did.
Maybe we could at least pass it out to the commissioners here. So, I know we had voted on this at some point in time, but, as Ken explained it to me, what he did, and I think the policy talks about that, that the board of, the chairman of the board of commissioners, after, consulting with various elected officials and department heads, will decide whether or not an early dismissal should be granted or closed, for a particular day because of weather is what we're normally talking about. And, so, I believe what Ken told me was that he would try, and start early in the morning, I know he did, and he would text a group of people and, ask if they had any input on, what we maybe should do. And, so Lisa, maybe you can explain it a little more, in detail, if you want to, and then we'll go from there.
As far as how we make the call, because it does say like in bullet point F, I'm sorry, I gave out all mine, so I
Oh,
can't.
you want mine?
Okay.
I thought you were pulling it up.
I was pulling it up,
Oh.
I didn't get that far.
You need to remember to work with the courts.
Yeah,
That was,
that's on my
we
list.
talked about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
And in bullet point G, in the event an emergency is declared by the county board, so it has to be the commissioners that call it, is how I take it, but you get input from, the highway department, the sheriff, who else we talked about, the judge, Judge Dolbravoni is who I've been given in the past to make sure to confer with him. And who else we say, make sure
Said
Kelly was in the
Rhodes,
list,
Jay,
and Jay, yeah.
we talked about, of course, obviously, all commissioners, try and let them give any input that they want to. Then some others were mentioned, possibly, speak to the communications center, possibly Rob with emergency management. And then, Lisa and Kelly need to be in the loop on this thing as well. And then Ken mentioned that when he was making that decision, that he would also talk to the city of Scotts Bluff and talk to the city of Gearing and the school superintendents to try and see what they were doing, before the final decision was made, the best he could. So that was the process that he used. So be aware of that and the fact that, if I'm, this morning I went out and drove, early at 5 this morning. I went on some of those north-south roads, and yes, those finger drifts were from the east bar pit into the road some. But, you know, I could navigate it without any problem. When I got to the Highway 71 up north, it was plowed and it was in really good shape. It was snow-packed, but it was definitely fully open and, with no problems there. But, so at that point in time, and then I came back and looked at who had been closing, and then I decided that, I didn't think that we needed to start the process of trying to make that decision. I thought that we could stay open. But I can see that process happening, and I need to be prepared for that. So, the intent would be that to have a group text and that I can send that out to people. And then I'm gonna have to talk to some people on the phone to find out what their feelings are. Steve, you're probably a primary guy at that point in time. But I just wanted the commissioners for sure to know, and that when we, I'll send a group text and it'll probably say, if you have input on this, you need to let me know as soon as possible. Because, we normally need to be making a decision by, well, I don't know what time that you think, but the earlier the better, simply.
6:30.
Kelly's one that normally notifies the
Media.
The media and
Right.
gets it on the
And then
boards.
keep her
Darla,
here.
can you give us some input regarding how courts work?
Right.
Mainly 'cause I was telling, Mark earlier today that Dawes County courthouse closed. So, but then you tell us that it isn't as easy as we close, unless
We cannot close the courts without permission from the AOC.
and
Which
that's
is the state.
yeah. So they would have done that. Individual counties can do that.
We can contact them, tell them we've got snow emergency, and then they give their best. But it's harder for us because we have trials and other things going on.
That's good. Can you come over here?
Right. Yeah, and I know that there have been occasions where the court didn't close,
Yes.
but
So if the
we did
courts-
close or
If
something.
the courts don't close, we'll have to have security.
Right. Okay.
It makes it difficult. You know, Jay has to be here to make sure the doors can open.
Right. And all the scooping and snow removal still has to be done, at least over in that area, so.
Yes.
Like this morning you had jury duty,
We
right?
did. Yeah.
So no matter what, we had to have lots available for people to park and.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So it's harder to call those up if you can, and we have done it, a few times, but, it is, you know, when it's a public safety issue, of course, you know, that's to be considered as well. It's not that we absolutely can't do it, but there are steps that the judiciary has to take in order to close our offices. So my staff, because they're county, would not be obligated to come in, they would be on a work is needed, ready to work status, and I would come in
Yeah.
and handle that.
Okay. So, what it made me aware of is how many different people need to give some input as to what the thought is and how it might affect their part of what's going on.
And you brought an interesting point too, when you said we would rely on Steve, and it's like, what if all of us town people can get in, but then the people who live out in the county can't?
Right. I
It
think,
becomes a little,
you know, at that point, yeah, we have to make a decision as to how much that affects us and, can we or can we not, function, so to speak. We know that, you know, the sheriff and his department and detention and communications, and there's several departments that are critical staff that have to come, or have to make sure you have people staying or whatever the case is.
A lot of times after visiting with both City of Geary and City of Scotts Bluff, they would usually make a comment as we're requesting people stay home or whatever the case might be as to what's going on within the city. You know, and Steve's he's a great resource, you're in touch with State Patrol, you're in touch with so many different other entities that could, you know, get information back.
and we did wanna point out bullet point H, in the event the county board does not authorize the closure and county offices choose to close their office or send people home, employees can use vacation and comp time, so.
And I can see, we talked about it today, Lisa and I, and, Mike was in on part of that discussion, but where I'm sure you had some people today that said, hey, it's getting bad out there, I think I need to go home an hour or two early or whatever, and, possibly supervisors allow them to go home and treat their, time, their paid time or unpaid time accordingly, so.
Depends on the business of the day,
Right,
of course,
what's going
and they'll
on.
know better than anyone.
Were there any offices closed today?
Not that I know, well, no, there may have been, but not that I know of.
Schools were closed, there were some other closures.
Are you referring to
Oh.
county offices, or?
Why, yeah, are you talking county?
County,
Here, this county?
this county, our county.
Not that I know of, but I'm seeing
There's
some
some
heads
that did.
shake, yes.
They're saying they did.
My staff, Rob's staff.
Public defender's office was dark and closed at 1:30 today.
Okay.
Sent some of theirs.
And we also know that there's certainly some elected officials that can make some calls, right?
But that's where we get into, okay, so that office closes, how's it fair for everyone else? And did they pay, are they going to pay him for that additional 4 hours and make them take vacation?
Right.
We tried to make it a group decision with everybody involved, and it has
Well,
been.
her answer is, what do you mean, how do you, are they gonna get paid if they make their own decision without the
Not
board
according
chairman?
to this,
Huh?
not according to this. That's why we
That's
try
what
to
we-
make it a whole, a whole county decision rather
Yeah,
than
We'll
it should be,
discuss
that's
that.
what it should.
pieces, yeah.
So we may need to
They would have to
monitor.
take vacation or comp time, correct?
Should.
But you have, you have, and Kurt's a great example. His guys, and roads department also, I mean, they're out and about, but, Kurt has the opportunity to just not go out. I mean, people notified, we're not gonna pick you up today, we can't, it's just too dangerous. And,
I told my staff that are full-time, they left early, some of them can make up their hours during the week, but if not, to get to their 40, they can take vacation time.
yeah,
Right.
If they chose to do it.
but the others, it's just a matter of pulling the gate down and going home, but, whatever it amounts to. But we try, it's always been done that we try to do it as a county decision altogether for those that are able.
Right, and they're already doing late starts, at least at Scotts Bluff schools tomorrow morning, so I'm sure that's going to hamper some employees getting here.
We, Charlie mentioned that to me I was talking to him about this issue this afternoon too, about whether or not tomorrow morning is a, candidate for late start. Supposed to get to 13 below tonight.
What's the
And-
prediction for tomorrow, Steve, you know?
I think tomorrow looks to be high, 8 or 10.
I mean, as far as in the morning, as far as snow and that,
I think the snow's supposed to end tonight, the
Right.
weather advisory
Okay.
is, I think it'll weather tonight. So, I think snow wise, they're interested.
everything should be cleared and
So,
at least passable, then, right?
it takes us, county-wise, it takes, not all the asphalt, get everybody all over it in like 2-3 hours, so. Get over the asphalt. The gravel will take most of the day to get all the gravel and drop it.
So part of the issue about schools doing late start is that then it sometimes put those parents in a situation where they can't hardly get to work until they get their kids dropped off. is
Correct.
Part of that.
That's the biggest
Not like-
discussion.
We don't have, not all of them have kids, but anyway, that, there's a whole lot of things that go into the equation, that's for sure. So I guess just simply put, I don't know if anyone has any specific input on any kind of late start tomorrow, but
Eh.
if you do, you can speak up now or whatever.
I think it makes it muddy.
There's a
Okay.
high of 6 tomorrow.
I just
Right.
turned off.
Oh, I know. The
So-
cold is the worst thing, and I don't know what the wind's gonna do, but the snow is supposed to stop, is what I
Yes.
saw.
That's why I understand it.
One less thing you have to do.
It's supposed to be wet, so.
That's what I heard. Okay. Well, Mike, we'll go ahead and let you talk about your thing.
Big thing is safety for our employees. That's the big concern that I have, is make sure we are aware that the safety of our employees are top notch, and we need to make good, sound decisions.
Okay. Any other, things, that you did this week that you wanna tell us about?
Last week I did the, housing board meeting, and then, recently I met with, training at Region One, mental health, and, we have a group of responders here in the area that, are gonna form a peer support group for western Nebraska. The goal is to keep our first responders spiritually, mentally, and physically, on the job. And a good example, which is trooper being killed, that sometimes that causes issue within that community. And, basically, we're just trained lay people to come alongside our fellow first responders. And so we'll be on call in the 11 counties of western Nebraska. So, we had a good turnout, good people, and it's something that's needed, and I think it's gonna be successful.
Okay. Russ?
We met with Kaplan first Tuesday of the week. Met with, Sears House last Thursday. I got airport board meeting tomorrow morning. I was gonna ask a question on the handbook. Is the employee handbook anything part of the county board book? No, it's totally a separate book, so nothing needs updated in here. Okay, that's good.
Kelly would be better to answer that, if there's updates to the county board.
Is there any updates in these lately? Not that
Mark would have been the one to ask.
On,
The handbook.
That comes from NACO.
oh, he's talking about the one from NACO.
Right.
So
Not
am
the
I.
County board.
County board handbook.
County board?
this county board handbook is what I got.
Yeah, I know of none.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just was
that would
asking,
have,
it's
that
good.
would have been handled at the orientation in
Right.
January
For the new,
for the
Right.
new board members, but I was not notified of any updates.
I don't think we, right,
Well,
I don't know of any.
Mine's
and,
3 years, mine's going on 5 years old, and I've not had any.
Call NACO and see if there's any updates. You can talk to Beth or Elaine.
That's their updates, that's NACO that takes care of this, okay.
They make the handbooks for us, yeah.
Okay.
And they're on the NACO website. I just shut my computer down. But they have handbooks in the learning management system.
Well,
That
I
you
just
could-
wondered- I was asking who updates this, I surely don't update this, right?
Correct. I mean, if there were certain pages that I knew were addressed, I would handle it for you, obviously.
Okay,
But nobody
That's
told
what
me
I'm
of
just
any
asking,
changes.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know of any.
cause I know it's been down here for an awful long time.
It'd been long enough that I think Charlie and Mark may have had halfway new ones back in the day. And then I made the decision that they were old enough. I just got all of you one,
That's smart, yeah.
and then, yeah,
but we don't
This
need
is
to do
only
that
like- Yeah, you're right, okay.
every 2 years necessarily unless
That's
there's a
fine.
big change, yeah.
Then we also, Road and Bridge has a culvert coming in from Kearney first of March,
Yeah, probably the first week of March, it was gonna be this week, but that got pulled over.
yeah, so, first week of March we'll be having a 50-foot by 10-foot diameter culvert coming in and be set east of Walls. Be quite a thing, I think. That's all I have.
okay. So, I'm gonna try and make a decision on that late start issue, here in the next few hours and let you know. Lisa, so, but I'll try and get a decision made. I wanna see what some other people are doing.
You know, Mark, actually, we could do that now. And the only reason I say that, you know the school is gonna be late start. So you can have parents that are home, trying to get their kids, or with their kids before they go. Couple hours, I know it's gonna be
And our normal time here is 7:30, starting. 8. So it's, okay, so if I don't hear any objection here, we can declare that to be a 10 o'clock late
I
start.
agree.
So you're gonna pay for the 2 or 3 hours that they're not coming in.
Right.
So they'll be marking their people in as if they got here at 8 or 7:30.
So late start.
Late start at 10, that week of it.
It doesn't count Road and Bridge.
Well,
Yeah, we're
And
those
that's-
exceptions for.
I know, and that's part of the issue.
Or Heather's office either.
Heather's
Well,
even, yeah.
and there's,
What's that?
Just kidding.
right,
I'll be here at 9. I've got a meeting at 9.
Okay.
So if,
what's that?
that's usually what I do a lot of that.
Lisa has a email that goes out
Yeah,
to
I-
everybody.
Right,
The group
and,
officials and then, but then it doesn't pertain to detention center.
I know.
It doesn't pertain to comp center.
Right.
doesn't pertain to sheriff's
I
office.
know, it's
So
confusing and
that's where it gets us
I
like, are
know.
you sure this is what you wanna do?
Well, we're gonna do it this time.
Oh, has it
I
affected the
hesitate.
courts? Is there court at, before 10 o'clock?
I'm gonna check.
Yeah,
A
oh,
good
I know.
idea.
It's
And Kurt, that would be up to you then, as far as your pickups and stuff. What's that?
I'll have to look at our schedule for,
Okay, just,
it's supposed to be 15 below 7 o'clock.
yeah,
my,
Is it?
yeah, and that's the, I'm pretty
then-
conservative on this subject, meaning that I rarely, want to close. But in this particular one, I did.
So you can plan on that everybody in the sheriff's department, comm center, detention center, roads, you're gonna
I
owe
know.
them 2
I
hours
know,
now.
I know, and I don't
On
like
top
it.
of the hours they're already
And
working.
so we all gotta think about that when we have our input is that, yep, even though they're here, they wanna be paid for 2 because the other people got paid for 2. And, yeah, it,
Or they could take 2
really-
hours off if they have,
I know, and so
alright.
it doesn't make me happy when we close, and it just throws a big wrench into some stuff.
And a lot of
And
questions.
I think we have to be really careful when we close. And I want people to be safe too, but, there's a whole lot of people in the community that are working, and their safety's important too. And, if one employee out of an office says, I think I need to go home because I live out in Rifle Sight Pass, then they may need to go home. And that supervisor would probably allow them to do that. But for us that live in town, it's not nearly the concern as Russ and,
I'm a ways away.
yeah, so,
I know
some Okay.
use the term non-essential employees,
right.
so maybe you could say the late starts for non-essential employees.
However Lisa normally does it.
Hey,
I know.
I've never dealt with the
Hopefully everybody's essential, but,
not essential either. Yeah, come on in.
That means you're not working 24/7.
but we're gonna do it this time. I don't know that we'll ever do it again, but, we're gonna do it this time. Okay? I know, and, it don't make me happy, quite frankly. So,
Well, if that wind happens to come up tonight for whatever reason, we
yeah,
could have
could be a
really
big,
You'll be glad you did it if
I know.
that happens. You'll be happy.
there was a couple times, I told Lisa earlier today, I said there was a couple times last year, I believe it was, or the year before, when we had the blizzard, we declared we were gonna be closed, and there hadn't been one snowflake fall yet. And I'm thinking,
That was before our time.
yeah, no, it was just a year or two ago.
Talking about that.
And we didn't have one flake of snow, but a major blizzard was.
It was predicted.
And when it was all said and done, I was unhappy that we were closing, but when it was all said and done, you made the right decision and we did close.
And everybody else did.
Right,
City
and
here,
so-
everybody closed.
Right,
Wasn't
and so
anything open.
it was the right decision to make, but I didn't like it at the time.
I remember that. I
It
can
was
remember.
in anticipation from the forecast that we got from KDB.
Right, and then our emergency manager person was telling us stuff too.
Alright.
and It was
We had a-
forecast to
We
be
had a
bad,
lot, we had a lot of input on that.
right,
Okay.
okay,
Hit that
so,
desk. Perfect.
meeting's adjourned.
Oh, man, how do you word that?
Well,
It's gonna be cold out there.
I gotta say,
Heather, do you need these or does Kelly?
I